Good morning, good morning, good morning. Let's go over here. Hope you guys are having a great day. There we go. Now I can see what you guys are saying. Happy Thursday. It is another beautiful sunny day. So, you can't ask again. I don't think in central New York we've had a spring this consistently nice. Just like weather-wise, every day has just been phenomenal. Even when we've gotten a little bit of rain, it's never been so drastic that it's like crushing your soul. And we are live on Twitch. This week we've talked a lot about motivation. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about, a lot of people kind of fall into these different ruts, right? And I think quarantine kind of really opened like a really big rut for a lot of people to fall into. So this is going to be a kind of quick and dirty version my way of, okay, how do I get out of these ruts? And a lot of times it's hard because, again, like there's something comforting about eating certain foods and eating, just different things that probably aren't the healthiest. Sorry, I'm a little distracted. I hear one of the kids screaming. They're with Beth. They're fine, but they're just, I don't know what they're screaming at. They're wild animals. So, a lot of times, so like one of my things is most people who know me know that I love ice cream. That's probably like if I'm going to go off the rails, I'm going to have ice cream, often. When I was training for Ironman in 2015, I don't know if you want to call it Beth's craving or not. But I mean, I was training 15, most of the time, 20 hours a week. And we were at the ice cream place or an ice cream place almost every day. And it's never more than like a medium twist, but it's always it was just always, I was like, I'm putting in a ton of hours. I can have this. And you can always justify it. When you want to have something, you will find a means and way to justify it. And if you need help with that, I'm the guy to go to, because again, I can, pretty much talk my way into buying anything. But that was always the thing for me. And then when you come to the realization, like, all right, I want to stop doing whatever I'm doing and make this change. Sometimes that's where it becomes hard because, good morning, Deb. Wow. Coming on live. And for some reason, I'm not seeing the comments the way that I want to see them. Huh. Okay. Yeah, so I'll just keep clicking back and forth. If I miss a comment from you, I'll check Facebook before I end this, but it's not linking over to Restream. So, but at the same time, Restream, there's a lag between them. So, but if I'm stuck, one of the hardest things, it's hard to just kind of say, okay, today I'm going to stop eating ice cream. And the thing with sugar and the thing with sweets is it's not, I'm not eating them right now. And it's not that there's nobody in the world who dislikes cakes, cookies, ice creams, pastries, like all the sugary sweet stuff. It's just a matter of like whether or not they're at a point where they're like, I don't need that, or I can have that, but it's not, and it tastes really good, but I don't have the desire to have any more, because intrinsically, which we've talked about the last 2 days, it's not going to do anything for me. So from that perspective, and a lot of people will, again, it's very easy to figure out a way to get what you want. So you'll sit there and you'll say, well, I've worked really hard this week, or I'm super stressed, this will help me get through. Instead of, you know what, this isn't gonna, I'm gonna have half of the amount, or I'm not gonna have this because this really isn't gonna help me get through. It's not gonna help me deal with my stress by sitting down and eating ice cream. All it's gonna do is it's just gonna prolong when I have to deal with my stress. Which in some aspects, sure, maybe that gives you a little bit more time to think about it. Or could you spend some time going for a walk out in nature and allowing yourself to have, quiet time to where you can think about it? It does the same thing. So sometimes when you get stuck in these ruts, one of the things that, some of the tips that I have found to help kind of get you out is to refocus and recenter. Okay. So you go back to, like, and it's super easy. Like, one of the first things, you can just sit down and you can say, like, all right, so, I really want to make a change. How can I do this? Journal. Using a journal, whether it's a Dear Diary, or just like a couple of sheets of paper, and just sit there and write down, like, what are your goals? Like, I have financial goals for this year up on the board. I've got my 75 hard stuff on the board, so that it's a constant reminder. In because sometimes we lose focus of that. And Deb and I were talking about, in the instance of Ironman yesterday, is when you sign up for a race like that, when you sign up for a race a year in advance, right? Like, a lot of people are signing up for Ironman. Well, last year they were signing up in July for a race that's going to happen in 12 months. Why? Well, because if it sells out, you're not getting in. 2, you have to put in a ton of training for it. So, and that's how it is with anything with life. Everything, and that's why Ironman is always got this like special pull, is because you're testing your body's ability to endure. And anybody can do it if you put the time in. But putting the time in is the hardest part, right? Because now you got to figure out when you're going to do all of it. So, but it's hard because you sign up in July and you have a race that's a year away. So what happens, like, for the next 2 months, you're super motivated because you're like, oh, it's going to be my first Ironman. I'm going to do so great. You're going through some of these visualizations that you remember seeing in July when you were up there at the event. And, you're finishing your run or your bike and you're envisioning coming through transition and you're super motivated. And then you kind of hit like this 3-month, like, you're doing all of this work, but what is it for? And then you get hit with a quarantine. And, so it's easy to kind of like have that motivation shift and move away from, what were those feelings? And this is why I say, like, journaling is awesome, because I can reference back to, what was I feeling the day I signed up? Like, write down, like, what were you feeling inside? Like, if you sign up for your first 5K, write down the excitement that you felt, like, in the nerves, in, holy Christ, am I going to finish this? Am I going to be able to do, write down those feelings. Like, when you get that promotion at work, when you apply for this dream job, like, what are the thoughts that are going through your mind? Put them down so that when you lose some of that motivation, you can reference back and be like, you know what? I wanted to work at this place because of these 5 factors. It's been 3 years. I'm still at the same place. What are those 3 factors? Are they still relevant? Like, and you can use that to kind of determine how your growth has been. Did you grow? Did you grow in the trend that you wanted, or did you get caught up in the day to day? And now you've just kind of like, if your trend, if your trend was supposed to be here and you've instead shifted over and kind of gone here, are you where you truly wanted to be? And if not, you can start to look back and say, okay, so what happened? Where did I go wrong? So now I can make that correction. One of my internet friends, Josh Bomar, owns a bunch of different Bomar companies. He said in a podcast or something, he's failed so much in life, but he always fails forward. The only time he's ever failed backwards is when he was launching one supplement company and he made a bunch of mistakes. He goes, and even though it was technically a fail back, I failed forward because I learned not to make those mistakes when I launched Bomar Nutrition. So that's a big thing with me is like, I think of like, all right, every time that I fail at something, I want to fail forward. So in other words, I want to fail and learn on what I've done wrong. So, tip one, long story short, journal. Because that's where you're going to be able to, you want to be able to reference back to something. Our mind is awesome at telling us what our mind wants us to hear. So again, I can justify ice cream. It's going to be a beautiful day. We should go have an ice cream. And it's not really good for your diet. It's going to break your plan. Yeah, but you know what? I've done good for the last 15 days. Why can't I have an ice cream? I'm still training 12 to 15 hours a week right now. I don't have any races on the calendar. What do I need to be in peak physical conditioning for? Yeah, you're right. You can go have an ice cream. If I do this long enough, I will come up with a reason why I could go get an ice cream. But again, I have other motives. So, and I will continue to work on those motives to maintain that strength. Second tip is going to be, along with the journal, share it with, your close family and friends. So your significant other knows exactly like what your goals are. That way you guys can objectively communicate. So if your goal is, I'm just going to keep picking on Ironman, is to do an Ironman, and and you kind of lay out what your schedule is going to look like, having that support system and those people in place so that, she's, your significant other, and I'm going to use spouse in this case, your spouse isn't coming home with pizza and cake and chicken wings for dinner on a Friday night, knowing that the next morning you've got to get up and ride for 6 hours. And that's a conversation that you will constantly have to have. But again, open communication is going to be a lot easier than sitting there being festered and pissed off. Like, why would you do this? Like, how important doing this race is, and you just keep on. Well, maybe you need to be more clear about how you can make it work together. And maybe there's some more ownership that needs to go on to you. And ownership, we're going to talk about next week, by the way. Just a little FYI, little foresight into next week's topics. So, again, journal, have an account, have a support system in place that is going to help not only keep you accountable, but help you when you're in that rut. If I don't feel like going for a workout, or if I'm struggling to get my second workout in, I'm like, Beth, we need to go for a walk. And it was like 1:30 yesterday in the afternoon. I was like, I want to get this walk out of the way so that, I can get that second session done. And, we'll take the kids in the stroller, and that's how we'll get them to take a nap today, instead of putting them in the bed and trying to get Parker to fall asleep that way. Let's take him for a walk. He can sleep in the stroller to be better, because we get some exercise. They're outside. It's good. Of course, it sucks pushing them up Ransom Road because it's 20% grade and you got 85 pounds of kid and stroller to go uphill. So that sucks. But you know what? It's workout. It's fun. So, those are 2 tips. Third one, after a sip, is going to be make it known what you want to do. So if I sign up for Sea to Summit Triathlon, it's supposed to be in July. If I sign up for that and everybody's like, oh man, that sounds like a tough race. It's going to be hard. It's a bucket list triathlon. And it is. It's going to be hard. It's going to be this, it's going to be that. I'm not doing it this year. I deferred until next year just because of everything that's going on. And I want my experience when I do a race. I want it to be good. I don't want to go there and be like, man, my swim is like 3 months behind. Oh yeah, that's because the pools were closed for 3 months. So I deferred until next year. I've already done that. Like, I already reached out to the race director, told him I want to defer to next year. And I'm fine with that, because again, but when I do it, I can sit down and I know, okay, it's a 1.5 mile swim. It's a 90, let's call it, it's a 95 to 100 mile bike. So it's a 100-mile bike, and then it's a 5-mile run up Mount Washington. Before the race, will post what my goals are. because that helps hold me accountable on race day when I'm getting into those dark spots and I'm like, I don't want to do this shit anymore. It's like, you know what? If I back off now, I'm not going to hit that bike goal. I mean, typically I'll hit my bike goals, but I won't hit my swim goal or I won't hit my run goal, like whatever my goal is. And, put it out there, for 2020, I want to pay off these debts. I want to pay off these student loans. I want to pay off, and, and again, like your friends, your community act as a larger support system that goes back to that smaller support system that can help support those ideas that are in your journal. So you can kind of see how it all kind of trickles back. And yes, I did have a client. She's like, you want me to write in a journal? And then she came in the next week and she's like, I started writing and I was going to write for 5 minutes and it was like 45 minutes later. Because sometimes when and it's not like, don't sit here on your phone and like type it into your notes on your phone or whatever. And by the way, that's my screen, which matches my 75 hard screen. So it's a constant reminder, constantly reminding me of what I'm supposed to be doing on a daily basis. And that's fine. Like those are good reminders to have. But pen to paper, and say, I'm going to write for 5 minutes. And if you don't have anything to write, just write, I don't have anything to write, because the act of doing that will stimulate like, oh, I don't have anything to write. I don't have anything to write. And then you'll hear one of the kids cry and you'll be like, oh, that goddamn Parker, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden you've got 5 minutes worth of writing. And it might not be what you sat down to write, but it helps get some of that stuff off your mind, or it helps you like, oh, that's right, that's what I wanted to do. And it'll activate that thought process. So start with journaling, add the support system of your family, very close friends, and then expand it out and make your goals known. Because if you make your goals known, then people you might not know that well will be like, wow, you know what? You're doing that. I think I'm going to try that too. And now all of a sudden you're pulling each other in, and then you have the motivation of a community. And honestly, like CrossFit is a good workout, but it's the community that makes CrossFit so amazing. And that's because the communities, the different CrossFit gyms in the area are still like one big community. Like it's as divided as they can become. I can go anywhere in the world and do CrossFit. I can go in my basement and do CrossFit. But then when we went and visited my uncle in California, I dropped into the local gym. I met actually a realtor that is in competition with my uncle, and I met a couple of business guys, and we just sat there. After a class, you're sweaty, you're exhausted, your endorphins are high, and you open up to people and you talk. And now all of a sudden they're like, hey man, next time you're in town, make sure you drop in, we're always at this time. And now I'm invited back, and I met these guys and I talked to them. I took 2 classes, and I talked to them for 20 minutes after each class. And, but that's how, like, it's a group of people with a similar interest who are looking for a similar outcome. And that's what you want is when you make your goals known. And of course you got to make them realistic goals. You can't be like, all right, I want to do Ironman in 8.5 hours. I'm going to beat Andy Potts' record at Lake Placid. Probably not going to happen unless you're really that good. But, if you make it realistic, and then people are like, wow, how are you planning to do that? And then you give a little context as to how you're building that. And then you explain these other parts of your system. You might be like, wow, this is a good good girl to hang on to, because you're going to be someone that I can use when I need that motivation. So I hope you guys liked today. 19 minutes in. So journal, small, very close-knit support group, or not a support group, but a sport group, friends and family that really understand and truly know what your goals are, what your motivations are, because those are the ones that when you're really struggling and when you're stuck in a rut, that's who you want to reach out to. That's who you want, like, honey, I'm really struggling. Like, this week has been really, really taxing on me. I need you to stop baking baked goods, that's honestly like my wife's life mission, is to make this 75 as hard as possible by banana breads, um, Rice Krispie treats, banana bread muffins. Like, she's making it all because she loves to bake. And she knows that normally I love to eat it. And so every day I'm just like, hey, you can make whatever you want. If it's not gone at the end of the day, I'm throwing it in the trash. I'm kidding. But, she'll bake, she'll challenge me. But at the same time, like, she wanted to get, when we had our going away party, not really going away party, when we were getting rid of the au pair that she was horrible at best. Beth called her and was like, hey, I know you love pizza. She loved pizza. And so Beth bought her a pizza. I just had a huge salad, and then I threw 2 eggs on it and maybe some bacon. I don't know, put something else with it. And I just sat there and they had pizza, and I just had a big ass salad with a bunch of avocado and a couple of eggs and a whole bunch of lettuce and veggies. So would I have loved to have pizza? Sure. I got other goals. So, and those are sometimes the sacrifices you have to make. It's like the sacrifice in the short term. Again, 180 days to add 10 years to the end of your life, or 30 days of the short term, right? Or that instant gratification for the long-term setback. So, use those 3 tips. If you ever have, and I would like to hear from you guys. Send me a message of things that, you're curious about, you would like me to discuss further, whether it's fitness, whether it's food, whether it's, whatever. Again, I listen to so much different stuff, pretty much all day. I've got my phone's playing a podcast or an Audible book. So reach out, let me know what you'd like to hear from. Let me know if you need someone to be part of that support system or help with any of that stuff, with goals, even if you just don't know where to start. And it's like, hey, this is what I did. Like, Steven, my wonderful cousin. And if you don't, you should follow, Steve Checksfield, I don't know, Big Hickster or whatever it is on the TikTok. I don't have TikTok, but I watch his videos that go to Facebook. And they're pretty funny. He's a pretty comical guy. But like him reaching out about, hey, I've been biking and this is what I've done. Is this good or bad? And you know what? Like, I'll give you honest feedback. I don't care. I'm not doing it to hurt your feelings. Like, if Steve came out and said, I rode my bike and, I went 4 miles an hour. Is this good or bad? Well, I don't know. What was your goal? Was your goal to go 7? If so, then you failed miserably. But if your goal was to get out on your bike, then you succeeded. So, reach out if you have any questions. If you want me to discuss something, please let me know. And for those of you who ever wonder, this picture right there is my fat picture with Beth. So you can see it's turned sideways, because if it was up to me, we wouldn't have it. But Beth likes to keep it, so there it sits. We both have our chubby faces on. So, all right, guys, that's it for today. I'll see you tomorrow.